Best game winners in NBA history. This year's NBA playoffs haven't gotten off to that great of a start. The home teams being 8-0, a major part of those games haven't even been close enough. Kobe Bryant's tweeting may have been the best part of this season's NBA. However, there are still 2 more months we can be looking forward to. The postseason celebrations have started with some delving into the history books to whip up some of the best game winners and buzz beaters. So here are some of them. Leave a like right now. Also, subscribe and turn on notifications. If you have left a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, also leave a comment saying, "I subscribed." And I'll reply to as many of you as I can, saying thank you. Paul Pierce's 2009 Eastern Conference round game winner against Chicago. There is no doubt that there are lots of historical moments in the NBA, and this shot by Paul Pierce is certainly one of them. To start off with, Pierce wasn't having a great game at all, as he had scored only 7 points in the first half. However, the last shot seemed to count even in such a situation. The captain came through in the end, though, even without Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen, scoring the game-winning shot with John Salmons barely giving him any space. That sacred elbow spot he took to, that he loved so much, certainly did put the game away. Dudley Bradley in the 1986 Eastern Conference first round against Philadelphia. During the 1986 playoffs of the Eastern Conference, the first round match had been rough going for the Bullets as they were down with only 17 points and 4 minutes left to go. However, Dudley Bradley came through for them by banking in a 3-pointer at the buzzer. This has left Charles Barkley and Dr. J still trying to cope with the loss. The Reggie Miller clutch shots against the Nets in the 2002 Eastern Conference round. It was a win-or-go-home situation against the New Jersey Nets, and Reggie Miller shined twice. He sent the game into overtime by a crazy bank shot 3-pointer that should never have gone down like that. He shot the ball, and it faded away towards the sideline, hitting the middle of the blackboard with such accuracy. Although it was an amazing shot in itself, Miller was still not finished, as he needed 2 more points to force another overtime. And what did he do? He dunked it, and then finished the game with 31 points. However, it still wasn't enough, as the Nets were just too good, and the Pacers lost the game in the end. Kobe Bryant versus Miami Heat, the lucky break. Although it didn't seem to make the cut because it was only a meaningless regular season, Kobe Bryant showed his magic yet again. With D. Wade in the game and the clock ticking with almost seconds to go before the end, Kobe chucked the ball from almost 3 to 4 steps behind the arc and somehow actually got it to go in. LeBron James versus Boston Celtics, keeping the streak alive. This was yet another regular season game, but it's worth it because of what was at stake. While chasing history, the Miami Heat's winning streak was on the line. Only LeBron James could save the day, and he didn't seem to let his team down, as this shot made the team look almost invincible, leading to their 23rd straight win. Paul Pierce versus Chicago Bulls, 2009 NBA playoffs. The truth not only seemed to step up here, but he also did it in one of the biggest stages in sports. It was Game 5 of the 2009 playoffs, and Paul Pierce took the crown for showing just how great he really was. The Celtics still didn't make it to the finals that year, but this was one shot to remember. LeBron James versus Oklahoma City Thunder, King Me. After the team had lost to the Mavericks the year before, all eyes were on LeBron James to set the record straight, and he got it done by showing up when it mattered the most. And for the first time in his career, won a ring. While the game did seem to go on till Game 5, LeBron's shot, which closed the deal, gave us more than we bargained for. Joe Johnson over the Pistons in double OT. It was the season of 2012-13, and Joe Johnson and the Brooklyn Nets were trying to convince themselves of their contention in the Eastern Conference round. The Detroit Pistons were in town, and the game had gone double overtime. The Nets had the ball, and the score was tied at 105 with 5.8 seconds more to go. When such was the case, Johnson inbounded the ball to point guard Darren Williams, who then flipped it back to the forward. After taking a few dribbles, Johnson then stepped back on Pistons forward Tyshawn Prince, drilling a long two-pointer at the horn. J.R. Smith over the Bobcats. In a game in 2012, the Charlotte Bobcats were tied with the New York Knicks with just 3.4 seconds more to go. The only problem for the Charlottes was that the Knicks had the ball. Just then, point guard Jason Kidd inbounded to J.R. Smith about halfway between the three-point line and half court, and Smith took two dribbles, stepped back on the left sideline, and nailed a fading jumper at the buzzer. This tremendously athletic shot sunk the Bobcats 100-98. J.R. Smith over the Suns. Just after 2 weeks of the game with the Bobcats, the New York Knicks found themselves in yet another tie with the Suns. Again, with not much time left on the clock. This time the game was in Phoenix, and the Suns had tied with the Knicks at 97 with just 1 second left in the fourth quarter. Kidd inbounded, and once again the ball was with Smith, who put one on the sideline, fading out of bounds, and hit the long two-pointer to beat the Suns. Michael Jordan's The Shot and the Flu. Jordan is inarguably the most clutch player of all times. Consider his The Shot against the Cavs in the 1989 playoffs, to the flu game performance in the 1997 finals, and the most iconic game winner in NBA history in 1998. He never seemed to be under pressure while scoring any of his game-winning shots all through his career. He even made news for college basketball's all-time memorable shot, sinking a go-ahead jumper in the final stages of the 1982 NCAA title. Chauncey Billups' three-pointer game-winning breaker. Billups sank a pair of game-winning three-pointers in a span of 2 weeks, first against the Warriors and second against the Hawks. During that time, he earned the name Mr. Big Shot, which was to stay with him all through his career. He came up clutch, time and time again. But one of his most memorable shots was in the 2004 playoffs against the Nets, where he dribbled past half court and banked one in, a game-tying triple buzzer, which forced overtime. Derek Fisher's turnaround jumper. The fans thought the game was over, and so did the Spurs when a go-ahead fadeaway jumper was drilled on by Tim Duncan with only 0.4 seconds left to go in game number 5 of the 2004 Western Conference semifinals. Somehow, though, Fisher managed to get his hands on the ball and was able to sink the game winner. He was clutch in the 2009 finals too, bearing a huge 3 in game number 4 of the series. Fisher's game-winning shots are considered to be some of the best in all of the league's history. Steve Kerr buries the jumper, wins the title. Steve Kerr told one of the greatest players in history that he will be ready for him when he comes on in the waning seconds of Game 6 in 1997. Everyone had anticipated that Michael Jordan would take the shot, but Jordan, who was still fighting his reputation as a scorer first and passer, never kicked it out. Kerr did what he does best, buried a jumper, which made the Bulls take the lead and win the series. It was the 5th title for MJ, and one more proof that even the best player needed help sometimes. Vinnie Johnson beats the Trailblazers. Vinnie Johnson, the bad boy from Detroit, won back-to-back titles in 1988-89 and 1989-1990. One of the most balanced teams to have that much of success. Although they had Isaiah Thomas, the team's lone star, they still relied on gritty performers both up and down the roster. Vinnie Johnson, who was known as the microwave for his ability to get hot and going as soon as he was off the bench, was a fan favorite. Perhaps his biggest game was Game 5 in the 1990 NBA Finals. He found himself in a tie game with the clock ticking. As he made a move, he pulled up and hit the mid-range jumper. Although it was a tough shot, the Pistons celebrated with champagne moments later. Gar Heard forces a third overtime. Some say that the Boston Celtics' Phoenix Suns NBA Finals in 1976 are the greatest game ever played. In this game, there seemed to be nothing greater than the turnaround jumper from Guy Heard of the Phoenix Suns, forcing the game into a third overtime. But what was more amazing than this was the savvy move by the Suns guard Paul Westphal. Although it seemed that the Celtics legend John Havlicek had just hit a winning shot, but after a lengthy delay had been caused, the judges told that there was only 1 second left on the clock. Now, although the Suns had life, they would have to inbound the ball under their own hoop. Now it seems as though Westphal had an idea. He knew that his teammates were out of timeouts, so he decided to go for a technical foul. This got the Celtics a free throw, and they made it count. However, this had allowed the Suns to advance the ball to half court, and from there they were able to get Hurd to catch it, turn it, and make it. The Celtics scored a win, but nobody would ever forget Westphal's timeout or even Hurd's shot. John Paxson's three-peat clincher. One of the biggest finals in the league's history was the NBA Finals of 1993. The Dream Team had won gold the previous summer, and Charles Barkley went from Philadelphia to the Phoenix team. Through his plays in the Olympics and the first year in the Western Conference, where he won the NBA MVP, he had become the second biggest star of the game, with only Michael Jordan atop him. But Jordan further strengthened his reputation as an all-round player, trusting his teammates to make the shot. Jordan, who had already scored 9 points in the quarter, kept the team's hope of tying the game up. However, the defense collapsed, and he had to dish to Horace Grant. Grant, having a look, saw John Paxson, one of the game's best shooters, behind the arc, and he was left open. Paxson was to end the game and the series with his dagger later on. However, it was the final shot that made the Bulls three-peat. Although there were some other great ones that didn't seem to make it onto this list, the ones mentioned here are still as great. And of course, there were some shots that weren't exactly buzz-beaters as the rules were tweaked. But I reckon most of them are great. What you could probably do is scan through the Basketball References shot finder, and you will definitely find some legit ones. In the first 47 minutes of an NBA game, however, anybody, such as a fan, teammate, or coach, is comfortable with shooting the ball. However, it is the last minutes that are of concern. In the last minutes of the game, something happens to the best of best players, which gets them going. Even so, some players seem to be just as good at crunch time as well.